Hey guys, good morning. So I found this really interesting document. I don't know if it's document. It's an analysis of what's going on. Um, we're literally watching the reclaiming of the United States of America. You can say this is why we're in lockdown. I don't really know, but DC is fenced off. And President Trump is never going back to the White House, but not for reasons you may be thinking. They went to all the trouble to steal a corporation whose assets are in the process of being seized. President Trump's executive order was actually directed at Washington, D.C. corporate swamp, at the Washington, D.C. corporate swamp cabal all along. D.C. is now walled in and filled with military guard. Now, I don't know if this is true. If anyone's in D.C., I'd like proof of this. But I do know people have gone to Washington, D.C. and said that nobody's there. Nobody's there. Now, is that true? I don't know. I'm not there with my own eyes. Can't see that. And a lot of what I'm seeing on Twitter seems to be staged. They prey on the louche of people. I'm not saying these two do. Okay, but look. Okay, after Donald Trump exits the White House, D.C. will be locked down because it will no longer be possible for a foreign ruler to rule over a sovereign country. Therefore, the foreign ruler must be locked out. In this case, that would be the new administration. These guys. There will be a new Capitol built and an end to the income taxes paid to the tax collectors of the corporation that is now in the hands of the new administration. They went to all the trouble to steal a corporation whose assets are in the process of being seized. We saw this, I think, with the ending of the Afghanistan war. They tried to tell us that is, that the U.S. gave them that money. No. It was taken from the American people. All right. Just a way to hold it and keep people from their own true birthright, their own true earnings. Now, my situation might be a little different. I believe that they are depriving people of rights who have certain bloodlines, and then they're transferring them to other jurisdictions, which if you look at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., it says unicorn all over it. People are always like, oh, you're a unicorn. They take them from the UK, put them here for use in medical experiments, in use, to feed the world because of the worth of their blood, period. It's not hard to figure out. And when you look at Gitmo with the McDonald's symbol saying free food, they're basically claiming that bodies can be sold to feed the world because of the worth of their blood. And that is, that's what they've been doing. Okay. Most did not see this coming because they did not even know their nation was a corporation. But it is indeed, but now, blah, blah, blah. No more are the states subject to it. Please read on to understand the nature of the battle. Meet the thieves in the light of day, so proudly they claim what is not theirs to take it, or is it? They're showing this, but, I don't know. I know that people say that they've been to Washington, D.C., and nothing's going on there. In 1871, a seditious act was performed by the government, Washington, D.C. A coup was made to rewrite the Constitution and put "we the people" in all capitals, under a new corporate contract transferring the United States of America into the new corporation of the United States of America, which transferred the power of "we the people" and the Constitution over to the new corporation. That's including all of our assets. When they did that, it placed the citizens in the United States as property of the corporation, which was centered in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's a money grab, right? And why they're allowed to extrajudicially rendition a child to America to keep them as a slave in this country. There's a bilateral agreement with England where they do this, but they're doing it to get the children. So they claim it's population control, like the person isn't capable of raising their own children, but they're really selling the children, in a way where the children are being used, again, in experiments. I mean, you have to claim right under your DNA and say, I'm the DNA mother of those children, however you acquired them through seizure. And you don't have authority to torture, abuse, or detain my children. When they did that, it placed the citizens, blah, blah, blah. This action made Washington, D.C. a foreign entity on American soil of sovereign states. It was established through a loan from the Vatican. Okay, well, when D.C. was transferred into a city-state, and this corporate entity then ruled over the people, citizens' rights were taken from them in the process. No one realized this. When they did the broker deal to get the loan from the Vatican, they did so via the Bank of London, which is City of London, which runs all, as far as I can see, all of the money. At that time, they transferred all of the property in D.C. Columbia over to the corporate entity of D.C., a foreign corporation. See backstory below if you want to. The forming of this corporation is of major importance to understand, for when President Trump signed an executive order in 2018 on election interference fraud for entities both foreign and domestic, it outlined how assets would be seized. The president and the people knew and had the proof that a coup transpired out of the corporation of the United States of America, along with other foreign nations, and was ignored by the corporation in D.C. They continued their illegal steal, and the military is now in the process of seizing the assets of this foreign country known as the Corporation of the United States of America. Well, they are seizing, they stopped the war, they are seizing the assets from the Taliban, but I've told you before, I think the Taliban is a CIA construct anyway, so it's just a way to, do things that are unlawful. I mean, there's laws. There's laws. They can say that you're IVF and then hold you as chattel. Remember, all my documents said I was being held as chattel from documents I signed for my own music contracts. So these said chattel. DARPA employees came after me, but I didn't know who they were. I didn't know, right? So the government played dirty, really dirty with me because they wanted my assets. Call it blood, call it children, whatever you want to call it. The assets are located, within the bodies of the people. President Trump has moved out permanently, for he cannot be president over a sovereign nation in a foreign land. And you know how some embassies, like if you go to the Russian embassy, for example, that is Russian land. That is not considered American land. You can't go into the embassy and see somebody who's there on, for like a political asylum. You're not, it's basically an act of war to do so, right? Which is what the White House and the Capitol are. President Trump was voted in by we the people, lowercase, has a meaning, not the corporation. After Donald Trump exits the White House, D.C. will be locked down because it will not be possible for a foreign ruler to rule over a foreign country, a sovereign country. Therefore, the foreign ruler must be locked out. In this case, that would be this new administration. Got Linwood right here. Now you see what is meant by Linwood shouts that we are in the second revolution. We're literally watching the reclaiming of the United States of America. What this means for we the people is many things. One of them is no more IRS. Watch and see how this plays out. It's a genius move. God is in charge of this nation and is now leading his elect to restore this great nation called by his name. Backstory. The City of London, that is the square mile within the Greater London. You guys know I sued the City of London for genocide. I sued everybody I could name. Everybody I could think of for genocide. All right. Because it's only certain races, and those races are it's never discussed in the news, right? Those races who have crimes against them. It's only other races, right? No, if you just watch the news, I'm not going to say which races, only certain crimes are reported. And Roosevelt himself thanked the press for not reporting on certain events. All right. So this gives everybody a confusing standard of what crimes are being committed and by who. The City of London, that is the square mile within Greater London, is not technically part of the Greater London or England, just as Vatican City is not part of Rome or Italy. I also sued the Pope. Okay? And they threw out my lawsuit because I'm a prisoner in America. I mean, I was extrajudicially renditioned here to be used as chattel because of my bloodline. Likewise, Washington, D.C. is not part of, and that doesn't make me not, I don't love what America did to me, but I've always loved America. I loved the ideals. I loved the Constitution. I would call myself an American. All right. Now, I explained Gitmo to you, how they don't want to release people because what you're released in Camp 7, Camp 5 into the community, and the people are told you're a prisoner of war or an enemy combatant, and they can steal your assets. So then, when you read the Black Panther documents in the FBI, you're going to understand. Certain people have rights. Certain people have no rights. And if the people who were targeting me didn't brag all over the internet about it, about my murder and, white women and hating white women, and I mean, really racist, crazy stuff, I wouldn't have figured it out. So, military should take a pointer that the bragging in the press about what they did to me is how I figured it out, showing malice, real malice. It's not technically part of Greater London. Vatican City is its own thing. Likewise, Washington, D.C. is not part of the United States that it controls. These three entities have one goal, and that is to do away with the old world order of sovereign nations and usher in a new global world order under one government, rule under the iron fist of the cabal. Here we got Vatican City, Agenda 2030, Roman law, City of London, Wall Street, New York, Money and Finance, Rothschild. Remember, it said that David Rothschild was supposedly born on my real birth date, which took a long time to figure out. Washington, D.C., War and Terror, Zionist government. Jesuits, Illuminati, Knights of the Templar, Knights of Malta, 32nd Freemasons, organized religion, secret services and societies, military, police, mafia, blah, blah, blah. NATO, big bank, big charities. Blood banks, you guys. Blood banks. These sovereign corporate entities have their own laws and their own identities. They also have their own flags. Remember I said there are a bunch of flags I didn't know what they were at Gitmo? Some of these flags, not the flag you guys looked up, the Navy flag, but other flags are at Gitmo too. All right. The square mile making up the center of Greater London is the global seat of power. Legal system is controlled from the City of London by the Crown. The Crown is also